Alright, so this past weekend, the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse premiered in theaters. This was, without a doubt, one of my most anticipated films of the year because Into the Spider-Verse is a great film. So, of course, I had to go see it on literally the day that it opened. I was so excited. What did I think about it? Did it cure my superhero fatigue? I'll tell you right here in this video, but before I do that, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What did you guys think of Across the Spider-Verse? Is it one of the best superhero movies of all time? Is it the best Spider-Man film of all time? Or did you not like it as much? I want to know all that down below and more. And with that said, just a little context. As of recently, I have been going through superhero fatigue. I mean, there hasn't been a good superhero movie since Multiverse of Madness. I mean, then we got Guardians 3, which was good. I liked it. And then we got this film, and now we're getting The Flash. I think we're in good hands from now on. Because for me, superhero fatigue, I think I've reversed my opinion on it. I don't think it exists. I don't think superhero fatigue is a real thing. I think bad superhero fatigue is. Because, honestly, everything we've gotten has not been top tier. I haven't liked a lot of things because it just has been, Disney has been cranking out more and more things. And how I realized it wasn't superhero fatigue is because I went back and watched Guardians of the Galaxy. I went back and watched The Suicide Squad. I watched Raimi's trilogy. And from what I realized is, superhero movies aren't bad because if you do something different. Superhero movies as of recently have been the same thing. Superhero goes to a place, gets defeated for a little bit, does a little fights in the middle, defeats the bad guy in a big CGI battle in the end. That's what these movies have become. But I'm happy to say that Across the Spider-Verse is not only cured my fatigue, but it's one of the greatest Marvel films of all time. No, it's not just that. It's one of the greatest animated films of all time. Not just that. It's not just the best Spider-Man movie of all time. It's not just that. But it is the best movie of all time. I'm going to hands down say it. Ever since I walked out of that theater on Friday, and I'm filming this on Tuesday at like 4 o'clock. Ever since I walked out of that theater, this movie has not left my mind. I've been trying to keep up with my movie work. Breaking Bad, you know, Barry, a little bit of that. I haven't really been... I still love those shows. I really haven't been super into them since I've watched this movie. Because this movie is game-changing. It is perfect. It is hands down perfect. And I cannot recommend this one enough. Time out here, spoiler review. This is a spoiler review. I gave it a couple days. So if you have not going to go see Spider-Verse, go see Spider-Verse. I'm begging you. It's so good. And then come back here to watch my review. I didn't do a spoiler-free review. I didn't feel the need to. I cannot talk about this movie without spoiling it because it is just so good. And I'm going to do just a little bit different. Normally when I do a spoiler review, I don't be scared of what I say. In here, I'm just going to basically break down each individual part by how perfect it was and how unique it was. This movie is truly something special. I've never seen anything like it before. Starting off with some positives instead of just breaking it down yet, got the animation. Obviously, the animation is perfect. We get in the beginning, and if you've read a Gwen Stacy comic book ever, you know there's like ink pastel, you know, ink dripping, kind of that color look inside of her comics. And we start out the film inside Gwen's world, which I will talk about in a few minutes, but it looks absolutely beautiful. Then we get to Miles' world and we get the original animation. And then every other world we go into, there's different animations. Every other Spider-Man is different animations. And not only that, but it's gorgeous and it matches all together. It fits the seams perfectly together instead of it just being like, yeah, it looks really weird to have them all. It looks cool and unique and special. And that's part of what makes this film special, is because, you know, in every single other franchise and every single other year, there has never been a movie quite like this. Every single other animated film has never been quite like this. Into the Spider-Verse, game changer. It started a whole streak where we got like Puss in Boots does that, and Puss in Boots Last, which is a fantastic movie, going to say it there. But it's just, it creates something special. And then it comes here, and that makes this first movie look like old news. The animation is perfect. It is amazing. It is gorgeous. And if you see it on a big screen like I did, you will be wowed by how great it looks. On other technical notes, the voice acting is really great, obviously. One nervousness I had is Miles in the trailer. A couple lines where it just seemed like he was standing into the camera and yelling like this. It didn't sound good in the trailer. Putting it in the context of the movie, I had no problems with it at all. I had no problems with the voice acting at all. The action is great. The villains are great. Everything about this film is great. Right now, we are going to start breaking it down so where I can get into more on my positives. You already know this is my favorite movie of all time now. It is so good. Let's get started with this. And the film begins with Gwen Stacy and in her world. And I knew from this first sequence that this was going to be a perfect movie. This was going to be the best movie of all time. The best Spider-Man movie. Because not only do we get in here and we learn a bit of Gwen's backstory, but it also kind of honors the name by having a villain, a very well-known villain from another world come in, the Vulture, and then Spider-Man 2099, Jessica Drew, you have them come in. You feel like it's already honoring every Spider-Man's name by bringing them all together to fight the Vulture, but you instantly know what kind of movie this is. This is going to be the Multiverse of Madness. Honestly, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was not Multiverse of Madness. I love that movie. I thought it was great, but it was not crazy. In this movie, it's absolutely insane because we start out and we already get a villain from another universe coming in. It's not just a creepy monster, it's a villain from another universe and Spider-Man from another universe coming in. But it's not just it's not there just to be like, oh look, there's Vulture from another universe. Oh look, there's Spider-Man 2099. Oh look, there's Jessica Drew. No, it's there because we have a story to hear. This is very much not even just Miles Morales' movie, but this is a Spider-Man movie. Spider-Men, Spider-Women of all across the multiverse. You're here and you sit back and you think, the name Spider-Man isn't talking about Miles. It's talking about all of them because we get started with a perfect story for Gwen. We explore a little bit of her backstory, and then instantly after that, we go and see all the emotions with her father, and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking because you get something that would be a big climax in the first 15 minutes of the movie. Gwen's father finds out that she is Spider-Man, and you get that emotional arc. And it's not just like, okay, but when are we going to get to Miles? You are 100% fully invested in Gwen's story. You want to know what happens to Gwen Stacy. And then we cut away from her as she heads into the Spider-Man universe, heads into the Spider-Verse, and we go back to Miles. And it's not like the movie slows down from there. I mean, it does slow down to pretty much a slow walking pace instead of a big journey, but that's great. We see where Miles Morales is at. This is a movie that is not scared of, oh, we're going to lose kids' attention if we don't just zone an action scene every 5 seconds. No, this is a movie that slows to a crawl, hits all the emotions. The big emotions in this movie is about family. And what do you do when your family finds out you are Spider-Man? What do you do when you're trying to hide you are Spider-Man from your family? Your family, you're getting disjunction from your family. Miles Morales is going through hard times with his family because he's trying to balance between being Spider-Man and being a kid. And that is exactly what makes Spider-Man tick. You go and you look, Peter Parker has always been having struggles keeping it from Aunt May, becoming Spider-Man, having a job, all those struggles. And this movie very much encapitalizes what that is. Those weren't used for emotional moments. Those were used for what Peter Parker's character is. These were used for emotional moments that are all the way relatable, while also just being very impactful. And the movie shows it in numerous different ways. Either Gwen Stacy and her dad, or Miles and his parents. It's all done in a perfect way, and that's what encapitalizes. Then we meet the Spot, and the Spot, I'm going to be honest, Spot, I'm going to need another film to fully know if I like the Spot as a villain or not. I'm a villain. Oh, I'm the Spot. I got holes everywhere, and my holes make me go places. Sounded weird. Anyways, I just wasn't sure what I thought of his character throughout the entire film, because honestly, And here he just seemed like the goofy character, and then he just kind of becomes like this big, great threat. And it's interesting that something that he gets a bagel thrown at his head, and then he turns into this creature. And the whole thing's about revenge. It just didn't... That's one of the things, one of the small, tiny, little kind of negatives. I'm not even going to call them negatives. This movie's an A+. Anyways, it's just those kind of little things there. It's only because the film is clearly a part 1 of 2. We're definitely going to need another film to fully flesh out all the plot lines that we're going to. And so the spot in the beginning of the movie I thought was great. At the end of the movie I was like, okay, he's going to destroy the world. I don't know what to think of that. Like I said, we're definitely going to need a part 2, which we're getting in less than 9 months. We're definitely going to need a part 2 to encapitalize what that was. But then we meet the Spot. The Spot's doing bad things. Miles got to stop the Spot. The Spot goes and he's using this portal to travel between worlds. And what he's doing there is he's going between worlds to find a particle accelerator to make him stronger so he can have revenge on Miles. And like I said, not really sure what I think of that plot so far. We'll have to see how it turns out. But you see that. And so Miles follows Gwen as she goes to try to stop him, because Gwen comes into that universe to find Miles and have fun with Miles, but turns out it's a complete twist as we're trying to find the Spot, and she's on a mission to stop the Spot. Anyways, then she goes and she is followed by Miles, and they go with Spider-Man India, and they meet Hobie and all that, and they all go on a big quest to try to stop the Spot. And it's a nice, fun action sequence. I wasn't the biggest fan of this action sequence. This was probably the lowest point of my enjoyment for the movie for me, where I was sitting back, I was like, okay, it's just an action sequence. I'm not sure what I think of that, but it was fine. There's nothing really that bad about it. It was fine. And then we head on past that, and Miles goes into the Spider-Man universe. And like I said, if you get all these Spider-Men here with the great art styles, it looks perfect. And this movie really looked perfect. I think it looks absolutely incredible with all that animation. And it's not even just that. It's not even because it just looks that. But it's really cool to see all these Spider-Men from the different universes all standing there together, and what they do and what they have. And this was the big cameos, because then you'll walk into this room and all these villains are here. And this from like when I was like, okay, yeah, but it's starting to ruin what the greatest first act is. And we instantly are thrown right back in here, where we see all these villains and the PlayStation Spider-Man and all these villains that are pretty neat throughout the rest of the universe, and see all these universes. And then after that, you get a bit of other things. And like I said, it was just really cool seeing all these Spider-Man villains and Spider-Man heroes and seeing all of them on the same screen. It was really awesome, and like an experience you're never going to have before, is because Spider-Man is a big IP. Batman could never. Batman will never do this. Have all of these Batman on screen together. This is what Spider-Man does, and that's what this does, and it's just really cool. And it doesn't even just feel like a cameo fest. It feels like it's honoring Spider-Man in the best way possible, and I love that aspect. I thought that was really neat and really incredible, the way that is handled. Then, soon after that, we get Miles goes and meets Spider-Man 2099, and 2099's even got his own backstory. You see, he's a bit of a hardhead throughout the majority of the film. He only has one goal, and you learn his backstory, that he had a family, and him in another universe had a family. He died, and so he goes and tries to replicate what made that family great, and it didn't work out for him. And I was like, that's cool. And Oscar Isaac is incredible in this. He's really great. And then after that, you learn his backstory, and it's a good backstory. It works, and it adds to this. But then you get into something that also really makes me learn that this film is honoring the Spider-Man legacy. And that is that we learn why Miles is there, and what happens is that someone really close to Miles, or someone really close to any other Spider-Man, have to die, and that honors who Spider-Man is, and it encapsulates who Spider-Man is. And it's great. And you see here as Miles so desperately needs to get out so he can save his family and you feel the stakes, you feel the emotions, and you get a big action sequence where he's running from everyone, and it's beautiful seeing all these Spider-Man while Miles Morales is running away, and it's just so cool, like I said, to see all this. But on top of that, the way that what Miles is trying to do, Spider-Man can't save everyone. It's gone through all 10 films, all 10 Spider-Man films. This was something that we've always known, and now Miles is just such a great character, and he learns this, and he has to go save his family. He's convinced he can save everyone, but that's not how it works. And so it creates this little bit of uniqueness. Like, do we root for the Spider-Man we've been with, or do we root for all the Spider-Men? What would you do in this situation? And you know what you would do. You would try to save your family. And it's just awesome, and it's emotional, and it really perplexes you and makes you think about what this is. This is a thinking movie. It takes so many ideas from the rest of the franchise and all the other Spider-Man movie, and it encapsulates them into one. That's a big celebration, and that's something I think is awesome, is that it's not just creating its own universe, creating its own rules. It's honoring the Spider-Man franchise. Every single Spider-Man, and it was just so great. So after the chase, Spider-Man escapes, obviously, because Miles Morales is the GOAT, and then he teleports to a world that you instantly know something's different, but he doesn't care because he's got to go save his family. So you know what he does? He goes and he finds his Uncle Aaron, and if you know, he dies in the first film, which I sat back, I was like, wait, doesn't Uncle Aaron dies? Is Uncle I that has to die for Miles to become Spider-Man? I thought that's who it was. And it was a bit of contrast there. It doesn't matter. It was still great. Anyways, he finds Uncle Aaron, who died, and he gets kidnapped because apparently they are the bad guys in this Earth. And this is Earth 42, which if you don't know, which you probably don't because you haven't seen the movie yet, or you have if you're watching this. Anyways, Earth 42, and I've seen a lot of people confused by this ending, so I'm going to kind of explain it here real quick. So it basically follows Miles Morales, and the Spider-Man that bit him, the spider that bit him, was from this Earth 42. And so the spider that bit him didn't bite this guy who was going to become Spider-Man in Earth 42. So that was a world with no Spider-Man. And you see that this is all the villainness and all the criminality that is here because there is no Spider-Man. Because there was already, if you remember, there was already Spider-Man in Miles' universe. He died because of Miles. And so it also just creates a contrast that Miles has caused this all in this world. And then he goes there, and you see that the Miles, who is probably going to be bit by that spider that bit Miles from Earth, whatever the main one is, he is the Prowler. Okay, Aaron tosses him a glove, he puts on the glove, and he's like, I'm the Prowler. And at first, I was like, is that Hobie? I thought that was Hobie, who is Spider-Punk, wasn't the biggest fan of him, whatever. It was not. It was Miles. And that is the greatest plot twist of our time. It makes you think. It's smart. It makes sense of what it does. It doesn't make me have any questions, but like, that didn't work. Because everything about it is smart and it's great. And you know what? Gwen goes back to her home. She's kicked from the Spider-Verse because technically she brought Miles there. And Miles is, if he saves his family, he's probably going to ruin his whole universe. And Spider-Man 2099 doesn't want that. Anyways, so Gwen is kicked. She goes back home. She meets her father. Her father quit being a cop. Didn't want to arrest Gwen no more. That's great. I still think we could have used just a little longer on that, but it was still emotional and great. And she uses the watch, her time travel watch, that Hobie gave her, because he quit, to form a team now and is going to go find Miles. And that's how the movie ends. Dead serious. The movie just flat out ends right there. We get the biggest plot twist of our time, and the movie ends. And you get up and you realize it's been 2.5 hours. I mean, this, if you think about it, this is 2.5 hours that is done so perfectly well, while at the same time is only one half of a story, and you could totally see a second half be happening. That is how much entertainment this is. This is how easily rewatchable this movie is going to be. Is that it doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. You love every second of it. You're invested in every second of it. And you love everything from this movie. The plot twist, the voice acting, the animation, the villains, the uniqueness, the way it makes you think, the way it contrasts everything to where if you think something, then the complete opposite is there and you don't know which side to choose. It is done so perfectly well and the smartest way to ever make a film. Lord & Miller's best. Lord & Miller has never backfired on a film. This film is great. It's entertaining. It's emotional. Everything about this movie is great. I cannot recommend this movie enough. It's getting an A+ for me. I'm going to go see it again with brother and my mother when they go see it, and I am just so excited to see it. I'm more excited to see this movie again than I am The Flash, and I've heard The Flash is great. You don't know how excited I am for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Everything about this movie was perfect. Perfect. Homelander always says it's perfect. Everything down to the last minute detail. This is what this movie is. And it's emotional. It's perfect. I was at a loss for words once I left the theater, to where on my initial reaction, all I could say was it's the best. It's the best of the best of the best. There's no way that a movie is ever going to come across being this unique and original and great as Into the Spider-Verse is. And you sit back and you think, wow, what a time we are living in. I have every superhero movie or TV show I have reviewed since Multiverse of Menace, I've always had a lot of struggles with it. This movie, I have no struggles with it. The only negative I can say is that it's one half of a story, which isn't even a negative. It's just the fact that we haven't got the full story yet. We haven't got the full scope yet. And it's just perfectly done. And you don't feel like it needs to have the second part for it to feel whole. It feels whole. It accomplishes everything it does while also going to have more. That's not just going to be a waste of space. Everything that they've done, everything that this trilogy is going to do is going to be perfect. I hands down love this film. I'm done talking about it for now until I do a Spider-Man movie ranking, and then I'm going to have this one at number 1, obviously, because it's the best film of all time. Anyways, yes, that was this. Remember, stay tuned for my Spider-Man ranking. I'm going to have a Fast Furious character tier list. I seen Breaking Bad Season 4. I'm going to have a review of that. I just got a lot of videos coming up. So, yeah, comment down below if you have seen this movie, which you have, because this is a spoiler review. Make sure to comment down below what did you guys think of the movie. And with that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.